Jordan Love rounds out the top 10 here, Jay. Odd season for Jordan Love. It felt like a roller coaster at times, and then you blink and he finishes as a top 5 quarterback in fantasy for the stretch of the season. Really different player in the second half of last year.
Yeah, I think back to the first half, particularly those games, I think against the Raiders and the Lions, where he just looked completely lost out there. And then by the end of the season, I mean, he was a guy who was to your point, like 5th, 6th best quarterback, not just in fantasy, but I think in just real football by the end of the year, the way that he clicked with his weapons. And I think the sneaky thing with Love is that the Packers just had a ton of injuries on offense all season. They had disruption on their offensive line. They had receivers coming in and out. Christian Watson never got any continuity. And now I think just you project more health on average. Also, these rankings, they don't include the fact that Jordan Love in the first round of the playoffs completely destroyed the Dallas Cowboys, lit them up as theoretically elite defense. So Jordan Love, he projects, I think, as real life top 7, 8 quarterback, and he'll be thereabouts in fantasy too, I think.
That's the thing, is that he was actually producing fantasy points early in the season, but we were talking about this early in the season, like it all felt very fluky.
A lot of it was rushing, the touchdowns against New Orleans early on, where he's running him in.
Broken plays that like he underthrows a guy, but then whatever.
Just somehow
Jaden Reed picks it up and and runs into the end zone, like has to come back for it. So he did not look like a great NFL quarterback early part of the season, but he was putting up fantasy points. And then somewhere in the middle of the season, it all clicked. And to your point, he looked like a franchise guy. And the game that he, whether it was on the road at Dallas and on the road at San Francisco, like in the playoffs, like he looked like you were like, damn, wait, hold on. Did Green Bay just get 3 franchise quarterbacks in a row? Yeah. Like that's, as somebody, as a Washington fan who's been in the quarterback desert for, almost 3 decades with little spots here and there, going from Favre to Rodgers to now, oh crap, Jordan Love is like a legit great NFL quarterback. I think that's a part of it. Coming into the season, there was questions obviously about Jordan Love, but also about the receiving. Could Christian Watson stay healthy? What is Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and these guys? And so the fact is they found something with all these wide receivers. Like Bo Melton's a nice player, and he can't get on the field for Green Bay.
Not even close.
Right. Yeah. I mean, exactly. But I mean, I like Melton, and I know a lot of people that really do. That think So the fact is here's a guy that's going to be the second year as the starter. He comes in knowing like he is the guy. All the wide receivers have improved as well. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a net. It's at worst equal. And you could argue maybe an upgrade over Aaron Jones in terms of just the durability that Josh Jacobs brings as well to that backfield. So I think the Packers are really interesting this year. But Jordan Love specifically, who last year finished as a top 5 fantasy quarterback, he comes in at 10 for me. But you could certainly obviously see him higher because of the rushing and because of just looking like the guy.
Yep.
Let's look at 11 through 20. This is where you could obviously find some value in your redraft leagues. Rookie Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He comes in there at 11, Matthew. Brock Purdy at 12. Another rookie in Jaden Daniels at 13. We're still waiting on the big Trevor Lawrence breakout as he comes in at 14. 15 is Kirk Cousins. 16, Tua. 17, Jared Goff, as we get a stretch run of 3 pure pocket passers right there. Matthew Stafford at 18. Justin Herbert and what we think will be a pretty run-heavy offense at 19, so a big change for Herbert in the rankings. And then Aaron Rodgers coming off the torn Achilles, just like Kirk Cousins, rounds out the top 20 there, Matthew.
What I found is just doing these overall rankings is you see these names that are 11 through 20, right? I mean, Tua was top 10 for a long time last year.
Right, it's kind of
obviously, Kirk Cousins was ridiculous. Brock Purdy as well. We just mentioned, Jordan Love was a top 5 fantasy quarterback last year. I could barely get him inside my top 10. Last year there was a talk about hey, if you want an elite quarterback, you got to get one early. I don't know that this year that's the case because I think you would be fine with a lot of the guys on this list as your starting quarterback in a 1-quarterback league because I can sort of poke small holes in the guys 1 through 10. It's all very narrow. If Brock Purdy finishes as QB 6 next year, I'm not going to be shocked, and I have him at 12. I have Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. We expect both those guys. I put Williams slightly over Jaden Daniels just because I like Caleb Williams' weapons better than I do as much of a homer for Jaden Daniels as I am. Daniels will get you some rushing, but Williams is also mobile as well.
His throwing floor is much higher.
Much higher. You know what I mean? I think there's less chance of injury with Caleb Williams than there is with Jaden Daniels as well, just given the relative size of those two guys. But again, Jaden Daniels is a guy that could finish top 7 easily if he stays healthy all the year and the rushing, So it's just it is incredibly deep this year in terms of quarterback. Tua, which we're going to talk about. I mean, you know, Tua had moments where he was an elite fantasy quarterback, somewhat inconsistent. He also had, you know, some games where he sort of disappeared, but like.
Tua just has an incredibly high floor because you still have Tirico and Jalen Waddle and the Mike McDaniel offense. Like, it's really just about on health for him producing. I don't necessarily disagree with it. It is just very jarring to see a 19 next to Justin Herbert.
I know.
Yeah.
But
his ADP it's like, you look at best ball drafts right now, nobody cares about Justin Herbert. It's crazy.
There's no receivers.
I mean, well, exactly. He's got no receivers. It's a run-heavy offense. And by the way, Justin Herbert hasn't been great fantasy-wise for the majority of his pro career. It's all been much more about potential than actual fantasy production. He's had some nice moments. He's had, you know, 1 or 2 good years, but he suffered some injuries. And so, you know, unless they're going to use him running-wise in a bigger way, I don't think that's going to happen. 8 of the 10 years that Greg Roman has been an offensive coordinator in the NFL, his offenses have ranked 27th or lower in pass attempts per games. And so, like, it's going to be a run-heavy offense. It just is. And that, like, when he does throw, like, he's going to be throwing to Ladd McConkey and Josh, you know, Palmer. And you're sort of like, okay, like, we love the talent, but it's hard for me to sit here and go, yeah, I want to put him over Matthew Stafford, who, by the way, was a top 9 quarterback over the final 7 games that he played last year and gets everyone back last year with a healthier offensive line, with a better offensive line. Or Kirk Cousins, who is going now to a dome in Atlanta with a Sean McVay disciple calling the plays, you know, and he's got Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, and, like, there's weapons. Anyway, it's crazy how deep quarterback is this year. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.